agents wanting to start a team or have a team or in that messy middle, it really comes down to modeling exactly what other people have done. Because there's plenty of successful teams out there. There's you, there's me, there's a bunch of them. And so don't try to reinvent the wheel. Like KW even teaches on this of like the whole triangle models and then marketing or innovation or whatever. It's like follow the model and then you can put your creativity on top of it. And so I would say for those of you who don't know, just go, Tom Ferry, you're a Tom Ferry client. He has tons of free YouTube, exactly what to do.
Hey, Jack Lehr here. So I'm at Lehr Podcast. I have this amazing young lady that entered my life not that long ago, and her name is Spring Bengtzen. Welcome, Spring.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me, Jack.
Yeah. So Spring has all this energy. She's one of the most dynamic humans that I know. So I'm going to ask you to bring it here today, okay?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So Spring, we met each other through Real Broker, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yep. So like I use the word collaboration partners, right?
Yeah. And it's so fun. I'm having a blast. Like probably the best decision I've ever made business wise, just so you know.
Yeah. And we can talk a little bit about that as we go here, but
totally.
Spring is just way more than real. She's way more than just this agent her story is, it has impacted so many people. And I got to hear it down in Mexico at Spring's event that you had at Xcaret, right?
Yeah. Are you going to come again? We're doing it again next year. Real estate, spring break. Do you get the association, the Spring Bee, right? Next
Spring Bee, yes.
Yep. We're going to do it next year, March 14th. So I want to see you there, but it was amazing.
Yes, it was one of the best experiences of my life, and just being around the proximity of the people that were there. And I was very fortunate to be asked by Spring to, share a little bit about our story and like how we help her and scale on teams. And that was like but being surrounded by so many great folks. Wow. But getting to know Spring over the last, several months, man, just a massive, like she's a killer. So Spring, a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So thank you, first of all. I've been in real estate for about 20 years, 19 years. I started out as somebody who sold new homes for a developer, actually. And I honestly didn't have the intentions of this to be anything that it has turned out to be. But I got into it. It got addicting. I remember getting my first paycheck that was $10,000. And I had never had more than maybe $500 in my bank account. Being 22 years old, I used to cut hair. And I remember getting that first paycheck and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I want more. And it became crazy addicting. And so I worked in new home sales for probably 7-8 years. The economy tanked. The developer went bankrupt. I joined a brokerage that promotes teams. And they're like, hey, why don't you start a team? I'm like, yeah, that's a brilliant idea. I had no business starting a team, just so you know. So I failed forward multiple years. But with that being said, we're one of the top teams in Utah. We'll do over 800 transactions this year. And we're having a blast. I have a title company as well as we have our coaching arm. And we're just, it's fun. So life is good and business is popping, and I'm grateful to be here to share with you today what we're doing.
Yeah. And so you shared with me that you failed a few times as an agent, like starting a team. Right?
Yeah, failed forward. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I think we all get to that point in our real estate career of what's next. And when I joined Keller Williams, which I will say I'm KW built, loved it.
Yep.
I just received Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30. So I had a great career. I was doing awesome as a solo agent, but I was ready for that next step. And the next natural progression at that time was to start a team. The reality of it is, though, is starting a team is really having a business. And I didn't have any business background. It was, hey, I'm really good at selling homes, but leading people, managing people, lead generation, understanding expenses just wasn't I don't think I was ready for all of that. Right. And so
Gotcha.
I was a typical agent that starts a team and brings on somebody that the market center gives them or whatnot. My first agent, fun fact, Jack, my first agent was because the lender trying to get my business called me. And at the time, online leads and Zillow were just kind of now new coming out. And she said, I have an idea. What if I paid for your Zillow ad spend? And if you train my husband, if you'll mentor him, I'll pay for the leads. And that is how I started my team. He was my first agent. Okay. And it was messy, but that's how the team started.
That's wonderful. So let's fast forward. You said that you're going to do 800 plus transactions this year, and you have multiple locations within Utah, correct?
Yeah. So we have our hub, which is in Davis County. It's approximately 20 minutes outside of Salt Lake City. And then we have an office we just opened up in Salt Lake City about a year ago. It's interesting, Jack, I don't know if your market's the same way, but there's only so much market share we can have in our actual hub is what I'll call it, because we're in a suburb and we're not in the city where people aren't wanting to drive to a real estate team or office that's 30 miles away or 30 minutes away or 20. And so it made more sense for us to be able to pop in an office 20 miles away to capture a much larger agent market share and market share down there. And so it's been really good. That's where our growth has come from this last year is adding that extra expansion office.
Yeah. And I know that you've been able to attract a lot of agents into your team based on, your culture and the things you guys bring, your tech. You have an amazing partner, I believe, there too, right?
Yeah. So we have approximately about 70 agents between both offices. I will contribute the success from who I'm in business with. Both Justin is amazing. You've met him multiple times.
Justin Nelson. Yep.
Yep. He's absolutely amazing. And then Tim, who runs our Salt Lake City office, is fantastic as well. And then I will contribute a lot of my growth is about who the proximity. And so what you're referring to as well is we have the back end of Sisu, and that relationship has definitely propelled our businesses as well.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit about Sisu here shortly too, because that's a great technology that I think we use, and I think everybody should be using at some level, right?
Yeah. If you're a team owner, for sure. I mean, it's a game changer. The foundation of a team is that it's a business, and if you don't know your numbers, then you really aren't a true business owner. And that's really what Sisu is built off of.
So a lot of realtors, they get into the business and they say, oh my gosh, the next step is that team, right? Yep. And they maybe don't understand business like you did, right? But how did you go out and learn about business?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I would say I coach a lot of agents that are teams that are in that messy middle. Through our Scale Up program. And what I recognized is the same path that we went through is that you get bored and you're like, I'm going to start a team, or maybe you have enough lead generation. You're like, man, I need more leverage, whatever that is. And they start putting a few of the pieces together, but they're really not having complete syntax. And what I mean by syntax, Jack, is let's put it this way. It's like baking a cake. You have all the ingredients, right? You have the flour, the frosting, the eggs, whatever. But what we're seeing is a lot of them are putting the frosting where the eggs should be. And so they're going out of syntax. And so it's messy. Yeah. So a big component of it, those people, agents wanting to start a team or have a team or in that messy middle, it really comes down to modeling exactly what other people have done. Because there's plenty of successful teams out there. There's you, there's me, there's a bunch of them. And so don't try to reinvent the wheel. KW even teaches on this of the whole triangle models and then marketing or innovation or whatever. It's follow the model and then you can put your creativity on top of it. And so I would say for those of you who don't know, just go, Tom Ferry, you're a Tom Ferry client. He has tons of free YouTube, exactly what to do. You have a ton of content like we do. Go follow the models or hire a coach, And
I believe that's a big thing is get a mentor at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Stop trying to do it on your own. Like we talk about rip off and duplicate.
Yep.
There's so many people doing it great out there. I mean, there's a lot of people doing it not so well, but go find somebody that's doing it great and ask for some help and hire a coach.
Hire a coach. Yeah. So I would say those are the people that are starting a team. A lot of it too is they're in their mind about how many agents, and I don't want that big of a team, or I don't have this or that. And the key to it is you just have to start. Like agents are the key to your revenue. It's like you have to have agents to sell the homes. Yeah. So the number one thing I would tell you is that you have to have a massive agent attraction or recruiting strategy. Even my Justin that you know,
yes,
and he's amazing, you guys. Like he's like a force to be reckoned with. His energy, like I mean, he's a sought after speaker. He's emceeing the real event. He emceed like our Mexico. Like I tell you this in context, like he's the real deal.
He's real deal for sure.
He still spends 2 hours a day prospecting for agents to join our organization because we know that is where our revenue comes from. So again, like number one thing on a team, I'd say you have to have the agent count and you can never let up on it.
So on agent attraction and building your teams, you have that down pretty close to a science right now.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So agents, we're really good. If you're building out a team, you're really good at getting buyers and sellers, right? Like you have your lead generation, you have a CRM to follow up with them. You have them on drip campaigns. You're doing client events. You're doing all that. You know what to do to get a buyer or seller, right? It's exactly the same in getting agent attraction. So we run it exactly the same. We have a separate CRM. We have a ad campaigns. We have full-time recruiters. We actually have more than one. And we have events. Like it is 100% the exact same. So if you can just take what you're doing on your buyer seller site and implement it on your agent attraction, that's how you do it. The other thing is shifting your mind around it. If you're going for a house, like that buyer seller commission, let's just say it's 10 grand, or maybe after company dollar, it's 5 or 6, right?
Yeah, right.
When you're prospecting for an agent, that could be a really solid agent. That could be over $1 million to you in company dollar if they stay with you, right? Yeah. So I would just challenge you, like, take it serious, because it really is like that key revenue driver in your organization. But it's exactly like what you would do for buyers and sellers. The other thing I'm going to say on this, Jack, is the funny thing about it is I would probably say that agent attraction or recruiting is the number one bottleneck in most teams. And when people ask me about it, I'm like, how much time are you focused on getting agents? And most of them don't have clear defined metrics and time that they're focused on it. It's just like well, maybe if so-and-so comes in, or I'll run this ad or whatever. And it's like, we don't hope a buyer or seller just walks through the door. Yeah. So why are we hoping that for our agents coming into our organization, right?
Yeah, we have to be way more intentional.
Yeah. So if you're wanting anything in life, you have to be intentional, right? Yeah. So agent attraction is massive for us. It's not rocket science. It's just providing value in the marketplace and being intentional about being consistent with it.
And I learned that from you, from Joe, and a few other folks, where just Joe Herrera, and just the way you guys have put this together and made it a system, a process. You block time for it. Mm-hmm. And I never did. Like we had people attracted into our world, and we had conversations, and they joined, and we're like, okay, maybe our agent count's a little low. Let's just ramp it up and get some more people in here, and then let's stop. And then, maybe have a little mass exodus here and there, because that does happen.
Happens all the time.
Grass is always green on their side, especially with those realtors. Sorry, real estate professionals. Anyway, but always be recruiting and attracting people into your world and bringing value. And you do that with your own CRM. Like separate from your buyers and sellers, correct?
Yeah, we use Active Campaign for our CRM for our agents. The reason for that too is I've seen agents try to put in a seat in their CRM, like their Boomtown or their Chime or whatever. Well, what ends up happening at some point, those agents get mixed into your pond leads or something. And now they're getting on e-alerts or message from your new agents. It's just messy. I've learned that lesson. So a different CRM to build out for the agent traction. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So keep it separate. And then within CSU, and we're going to talk a little bit about CSU and maybe the connection with, the CEO, right? This guy named Brian.
I sleep with them every night. That's the connection.
Well, they're married.
He's my husband. Yes. Yep.
Very good. But I got to know Brian down in Mexico. Sarah and I did, and boy, he's one of the most intelligent humans that I've ever been surrounded by. So you get that benefit of having Sisu at your fingertips, right?
Yep. Yeah. So Sisu, so we use Sisu for on and offboarding of agents, which is actually through their recruiting platform. Yep. And it's been a game changer. But the fun thing about Sisu is it actually came about. So I'd say 7 years ago, my team, I used to run a team of I wanted small elite team. I wanted agents that did 30 or 40 transactions a year. And I had this misconception, more meant more work, right? Well, what happened is everybody walked out one day and they left for a higher split. And I was devastated. Because I'd spent years, I had one agent left, but everybody else had walked out. I'd spent years helping develop them and we were like family, right?
Yeah.
And my one agent that was left was going to Greece for 3 weeks. And I had Boomtown and I had ad spend and admin. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I came home and Brian's like, hey, Spring, I'll step in and help you. He had his real estate license, but he wasn't in real estate. And I was like, okay, cool. And so that summer I cranked it. But what happened was Brian is used to making a certain amount of money. And so his standard is making that amount of money. Mm-hmm. So he showed up as somebody who makes that amount of money compared to the agent that's like, I want to make $100,000 or $300,000 or 30 grand or whatever. And Brian showed up as like, oh, if I'm going to do this, we're doing it. And so he hired a Mike Ferry coach and all these things. And so he just started smiling and dialing and making it happen. Well, from that, he got into my business a little bit and I was using Google Sheets and just random things. And I honestly had no clue of ROI. I was tracking the metrics of appointments met, set on the WIG form is what we called it, Wildly Incredible Goals. Yeah. And one day we were at a mastermind and the idea got brought up for an app to gamify real estate. And I looked at Brian and the woman that was speaking about it, she's like, I just don't have the money and I don't know how to do it. And I'm like, because Brian's a true entrepreneur. He's had many companies that have bought and sold and he has a tech background. So I'm like, well, we could do that. How much do you think it'd cost? And I was thinking in my head, it'd be like a $20,000, we're going to build out this app. It's going to be cool. And so Brian's like, yeah, let's do it. And so Sisu actually started as an app to gamify. Okay. And quickly we realized hey, just on an app, it's not going to really work. So then it moved to the desktop and then it just kept on expanding and expanding and expanding of well, how do we get agents to actually track and log? Okay, well, we need to put some stickiness in there of all their back end is in there. And then it was hey, I need to know the ROI on this. And he'd be like, oh, that's easy. Yeah. So anyway, what it started as 6 years ago to what it is now is a completely different product. And it's amazing, but it's been a crazy journey, but I use it. The thing that I think is so I'm grateful for, not that it's just our second or third or fourth child at this point. It's actually our sixth. We have 5 kids. So it's our 6th child at this point. The cool thing about it is it truly changes how you do business because I had a shadow day. So teams come and shadow my organization, right? I had one yesterday and I could click a button and show them my lead source ROI, how much income, everything is cost. They have employees to try to do that, and it's still not happening. And I'm like, man, it's saving me that employee cost.
Yeah.
And I can click a button and it's just done. Right.
So
So
I just want to just maybe share just a little piece of the CSU that I think is really great for an agent. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is so we went out to spring, I guess. We were out there not that long ago for the for a CSU event. And it was like pretty intimate setting, maybe like 60 of us, perhaps, kind of.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we also got invited into Spring's office, and Justin and Spring were up there, and they had all their teammates. We got to see, how they're doing this. And one of the things that I thought were so remarkable for an agent is to understand their pipeline, what that equals, and understanding I have 17 people in my pipeline, and I want to go on a special trip, or I want to go buy a Tesla, or I want to go do whatever I want. And if I close those, that's 17, or each one of those deals is worth X amount, depending on your market and your splits. And they could see that in their pipeline, that if I get all those deals done, again, you got some rock star killers on your team. You have the complete gamut, but they all know their numbers, and they know that if they hit their numbers, there's a good possibility that they're going to, get that pipeline and create that income for themselves. I love that. That was huge for myself to see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you and I both know real estate's a numbers game. Business is a numbers game, right? Yeah. I mean, in real estate, you're in two businesses. You're in the lead generation business and you're in the sales and service, but you don't have the sales and service without the lead gen. And so we really hit hard on that. And getting them to understand, like, you have to log and you come back in is a little bit of a challenge. And so what you saw is years of conditioning. Like, we have them pull out their CSU every day, every morning, Slack out their dashboard, so we at least know they're looking at it in the morning. Yeah. We have them log all of their back end forms of, like, when they take it under contract, or their submission forms, or listing paperwork in CSU. So we know they're logging in to see it then. They have to report in sales meeting, which you saw, right? So we know they're at least paying attention to their numbers and in their one-on-ones. So we know that they're in there at least three times a week to be like, am I actually doing the work to hit the income level that I want to hit? Yeah. And it's just that self-awareness. And also showing them, to your point, your pipeline. If you close these people, it could be this. Now, I will tell you, Jack, we also have to create that, what will it do for you? Because even just seeing that number isn't enough. We have to create with them, like, having that number, what does it do for you? Because they just emotionally can't attach to, hey, I've got 90,000 in my pipeline, and, like, what would I do with 90 grand? As much as you and I are like, hell yeah, the average agent is not quite there yet.
Yeah. So they're not associating it with that pleasure or to solve a pain in their life, right?
Yeah. And
unless you help them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what we see is a lot of them will have a killer month and then they drop off, right? And it's like, okay, what pleasure could you have of having a killer month and having that extra money go towards something amazing than having to pay your bills because you dropped off? And so it's a lot of that self-awareness around the numbers, and that you can create it. And we have, as you saw, we have dashboards all over our office, like, about a huge wall of all the metrics.
You definitely do. It's unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. But it really is like, they need to know their numbers, but then it's also attaching that leadership component that comes from what I hope you saw when you came, is the leadership component of, your numbers, but then what? Like, what is this going to do for you?
I think that's the biggest thing. My biggest takeaways. I came into this meeting. I brought Sarah, our director of operations, and we went into this CSU event. And I just want to be able to track certain things to help our team. And I came there to, I understood that part of it. And I said to Brian, your husband, I said, this is really about Sarah. Like, I get this. And he challenged me before the meeting even started. He goes, I'm challenging Jack because this is way more about leadership. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to come in with a curious mindset. I'm going to get very super curious and not, putting ego by by the side and I'm just going to listen and get curious. And man, those couple of days, I walked away from it, bringing it back to our teams and saying, Sisu is all about leadership.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
It is really, it's a beautiful thing to bring that back to your team. And it's more than just nerd stuff and tracking numbers. Like it's hardcore leadership.
Yeah. It's leadership with your agents. And then it's also leadership for you to make educated decisions. So for example, right now I have some lead sources that I'm evaluating just strictly off the report of in the back end of Sisu of like, man, we're not converting these. It's costing us, we're at a negative ROI.
Yeah.
Where if I was strictly going off emotions and looking at it, like we had 2 closings from it yesterday, but those 2 closings doesn't justify the cost, right? And so it's leadership, even just from that back end of you making educated decisions and also leading your team. It's cool. Like, I'm really excited. I think when you probably came to our event, like you said, you didn't know what you're getting yourself into. The RAIN conference is probably more of what you thought you were going to get, which is one day of like diving in for Sarah, like that first day of Sisu certification, getting it all dialed. I look at it, Jack, and I think if I wasn't married to Brian and didn't have like at my click of my fingers what I needed, would this be difficult to build out or utilize how I use? And the answer is yes. And so they're really working on making it to where they have free, it's included, your onboarding is included when you sign up with everybody now. And then doing these events of like, get your admin in to get your system built out. And then day 2 is how you can utilize it in your company and what other agents are doing in teams and stuff. So I think it'll be good, but I apologize that you came to an event. You had no clue what you're coming to, but I know you left being like, hell yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. So. I was blown away. I mean, we were out there for a bunch of different reasons. The main was Sisu, but there was also another event that we participated in together. Yeah. And I was just blown away. I was like, wow, this is remarkable. And then being there with your team and seeing the way that your teammates got up there, like people that were new in the business, sharing their numbers. And it's funny. Like, let's just say one of the measurables was, I don't know, let's just say one of them was like connections or conversations, right?
Yeah.
And let's just say their goal for the week was 100 and they get up there and they said, I hit 99. And you could just see the entire team going, what would it have taken to get one more? But it was cool to see the culture. Like it was that loving busting of the chops to say, what you left? Did you leave it all out on the field or what?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is interesting. So what we do is we have them report their numbers in front of everybody. It's fast. You saw it. So for those of you guys obviously that weren't there, our minimum standard is 100 conversations a week. And so they'll say 101 conversations, 1 appointment set, 1 appointment met, 1 under contract, and 1 closing. If they hit 100 conversations, we clap. If they had something besides 100 conversations, we clap twice. So it goes, and that's it. And we move on. So it's just that self-awareness of like, I have to report this out in front of everybody. It's for us to make sure they're looking at their Sisu. It's also for us. It's interesting how many agents are like, I don't want to show up to this meeting and have to report out horrible numbers. And so we have some people not show up, which our standard is you have to show up. And it's been good. Like I would encourage all of you guys, if you're a Sisu client and you're wanting to drive production, put some accountability around it. Accountability is the highest form of love. It really is. You're not going to lose talent because you held them accountable. So that's our way of doing it. And we also, as you said, we're not jerks about it. It's just but it's the awareness.
Yeah. And it's neat to see. So there's a few people on your team that I got to know over the last several months, Sherida, and Carly and Jace, and like they're killers out there. And it was just neat to see them up there sharing their numbers. And then the way that they are helping to mentor and grow those youngsters that are new into your business, right?
Yep.
They embrace it.
Yeah. So we run a mentor program. Like, so we've got these killers, but you guys, just like I wanted more, Jack, you wanted more, like they want more. Like they're at that point that they're like, okay, what's next? And so we provide the opportunity for them to start mentoring new agents, taking a part of our company dollar to pay them for it.
Yeah, well, that's pretty rare, by the way, because a lot of times it comes out of the agent's dollar, and that's so you do it a little bit differently.
Yeah, we do it differently, just because it takes off of our plate that we can go create more, right? Like, so I don't take it from that agent. We take it from our company dollar to pay the mentor program. But it's actually, it's been great. We've kept a lot of our senior agents for multiple years, 2, 3, 4, have had some with us 5 years, because we're creating an environment that they can grow within our organization and continue to get their needs met of that growth, right? The contribution and the connection and stuff. So it's been really good, and it's been fun to see them take ownership of it.
It's pretty cool. And like, I think one of those agents that I might have referenced maybe left your business at one time and came back.
She was the girl that devastated me. You know, that how Brian, yeah. So she was one of them. And it's actually took a lot of growth on my end in terms of, if you would have asked me 2 years ago if she would have been back, it would have been a no. And it would have been a hard no for me as a human. Like, oh, hell no, you left and now you want to come back. But I think we've grown enough, and I knew the value we were creating, and the organization I had when she started to the organization I have now are apples and oranges. Yeah. Like, it's not even the same. She's not the same person. I'm not the same person. So when she came back and said, hey, I've heard you have this opportunity. Would you be open-minded to having a conversation? I knew she was talent, and I'm like, yeah, you're great. And she's been amazing for our culture, and I'm so grateful. So we've actually had quite a few agents come back in the last 6 months that have been with us at other points, that have left because they thought, oh, I don't have to pay a split and I could go work half the amount of time or do half the amount of transactions and make the same amount of money, or this is too much pressure in this organization. And what they recognize is that them on their own, they're not succeeding. I've only probably had in my career over the last 12 years, less than a handful of people leave our team that have actually done more after they've left.
Yep. We've had two. We track that stuff and just keep an eye on it, because, listen, I care about these people even when they leave, but you see it and you go, they're doing a quarter of what they were dollar wise. Sometimes people, they're chasing split and they don't realize the value that comes alongside of iron sharpens iron. Be around that proximity of being around some mother effing studs in the industry, like
you. I mean, honestly, like, this is why I said it when we started this, like, the best decision I've made has nothing to do with anything more than, like, it's broadened my my relationships and my friendships and my proximity to where it's like I'm growing because I'm in great conversations with business owners that are doing cool things that I want to connect with and grow with, right? Like, if I didn't have this relationship with you, you wouldn't have come to Mexico. We wouldn't have been able to form a relationship. I wouldn't have met Sarah and Kelly and your wife and whatnot. You wouldn't have been to Utah, And so I think that's the same for a team of iron sharpens iron. People want to be around talent, and it can get heavy a little from the accountability where you're like, dang. But when people get out of it, it's very rare that they succeed. And I said a handful because I'm not 100% sure I can think of 2, but maybe there's one more, it's very rare. So,
And the one that came back, like, I heard her story, and her heart is just full of gratitude, and the relationship that you guys have, that she has for you, and working with you and Justin and the team, like, being around that team. Yeah. Like, that culture is just ridiculously effing crazy. Wow.
Yeah. That's Justin. That's his superpower. Like, he's
so Justin is an incredible superhuman. He's the real deal. But I think spring. Are you kidding me? Like, you're a killer.
Yes. No, I agree with you. I'm just saying, like, he brings that heart. So I bring the business that I'm like, hey, this is what's up. This is why, and this is what we're doing. Yeah. And he brings the heart of, like, keeping their energy and, like, the excitement and, like, I'm here, Yeah. So we're really good. He's the yin to my yang. So it's good.
Great. And Justin's going to join us sometime in the future. We have a commitment from him. So excited to bring him here so that he can get maybe share a little bit of the other side of what you're about, right?
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a good value to you guys. He's full of knowledge, that's for sure.
So you were with KW
Mhm.
as an individual agent, and it had a team. You made a transition to Real Broker. Like, what did that look like? Why did you even decide to do that?
So I was at KW for probably, about 10 years.
Yep.
And I loved it. And I still do. Like, I'm a huge KW fan. But I was at that point, I wanted more. And so I actually left KW to start my own brokerage. I don't know if you
Okay.
knew this.
I did not know that.
And so I bought the franchise rights for a flat fee brokerage up in our area that was new. And how I met Justin is actually one of my business coaches said, "Hey, Spring, if you're going to do this, go run it like a KW, go get somebody who's a recruiter and a team leader and go and get agent count." And there was another team in Salt Lake City. So I'm 20 minutes outside of Salt Lake City. You've been to my office.
Yes.
There was another team that's 20 minutes out of Salt Lake City, the other direction,
Okay.
that was buying the same franchise down there. And so we were like, man, let's go get a recruiter and share them. And they said, "Hey, we have this guy. We met him at KW. He just got his license. We met him. He'd be perfect." And so it was Justin. And so we hired him as our recruiter for both offices, and he was amazing. And we crushed it. I mean, we brought on like 120 agents in 9 months. But we actually opened up March 14th of 2020 or March 1st of 2020. And then COVID hit, I think like March 14th, right?
Yep. 2 weeks later. Yep.
Yeah. And man, it was great because he and I were on the same page of like where we're going and like, we're not going to let this stop us and whatnot. But fast forward during that, I really started looking at my life, and we were building out this team, and then we had the brokerage, and the brokerage agents were feeling a little neglected compared to the team because everything was about the team, right? Like they had their incentives and they had their contests and they had these things. And yet these agents over here still were great. But in my mind too, it was like, well, we make all of our money from the team. Like,
yeah.
And so it was that give and take. And so also during the pandemic, I was seeing EXP and my friends just start crushing it. Right. Yep. So I'm like, maybe this is something I need to explore. And so we went down that path of like, what do these models look like? How does it work? And I also knew, I'm like, man, if we can attract 120 agents in 9 months in our little 20-minute bubble, what could we do if we opened it up outside of our 20-mile radius? And so we went down the path of what does this look like? Ultimately, we transferred our franchise rights. So luckily for us, the gentleman who was a regional director of the Realty, it was a Realty One franchise, locally, wanted the franchise. And so I was like, cool, you can have it. We're going to move on. And I had a bigger vision of what we could create. And I also was like, at the end of the day, the team was my baby, and building out a brokerage just really wasn't. Like, it just wasn't. And so we made that shift about 14 months ago. And I said it's been my best decision, not because of the revenue share and stock. That's all great. We all know how that works. Mm-hmm. But because of things like this, like I tremendously have grown as a woman and as an organization and my relationships. I'm like, this is fun. Like the conversations are fun. Like meeting you is fun. Talking to Joe is fun. Colton is fun. Like the people coming out of the woodwork being like, hey, can I come to Real? I'm like, yes, And so honestly, Jack, it's just fun. Like, that's why I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
It is a lot of fun.
It's fun.
And I think the thing, so like you and I had a conversation probably 8-9 months ago, because we were with that other big cloud-based brokerage. We were one of the high performing teams there. And like we left because of culture. And quite frankly, we were going to go back as a privately held brokerage. And somebody I knew said, have a conversation with Real Broker. I connected directly with Tamir, and I'm like, CEO to CEO, I'm having this conversation. I'm not going to be on somebody's way low downline, and then all of a sudden have to deal with foolishness down the road. So want that route. I had a conversation with you, Taylor and Joe, and I think you have grown a ton since my first conversation with you.
Yeah, it's been bananas. Yeah. In all
I think you had some certain mindsets at that time, and I've seen you expand way beyond that. Like, we all have these self-limiting beliefs, and I bet even Spring had a few back then, right?
Oh, I still do. And yes, I've grown so much. And again, a lot of it is from just you are who you hang out with.
Yeah.
And so my bubble has just expanded with killers across the US that we're all like, yeah, let's grow together. Like you and I text, like you sent my Sarah a cute shirt, by the way. Thank you for that. She and I were on a Zoom, and she started smiling. We were on like a meeting, and then she stopped and she's like, you guys want to see what Jack Lehr sent me? And she held up her shirt. And so thank you for sending that.
So it was Jack and Sarah on my team sent Everybody Needs a Sarah shirt, right?
Yep. Yeah. And so that was just so sweet. But just things like that of, we can be in proximity, like we'll shoot each other a text. Hey, what are you doing here? What's this lead gen here? What do you think about this? Or, hey, do you want to do an event here? Or, hey, do you want to speak? Or, and it's just different than being at a traditional organization. So if you even forgot about the monetary side of it, I'm having fun. I'd still do it even if I wasn't making the revenue share, but it's really fun. And the revenue share.
But you've attracted a significant number of folks into the brokerage. And again, Real Broker pays us to go out and attract people into producing agents that match up culturally. They want to protect the culture at all costs. They don't want, it's not a recruiting company. It's a company that's based on production that matches up with the culture, right? Yep.
Well, that's the thing, Jack. Like, you saw the second earnings report come out, like 385 or 382%. It's because we're really attracting hitters that producers are like, I see the opportunity now. Like, I'm going to jump on it now. And so everybody that I've brought on has been somebody I'm super grateful to be in business with. It's just, again, I keep on using the word fun, and there's no other way to describe it. Like the conversations and the life around it is just, it's a blast, right?
Yeah, we're building multiple cash flow opportunities and wealth at a significant level, and it's been beautiful for a lot of people in my world. So I'm grateful that we had that conversation so that we made that transition. So thank you, Spring. I appreciate that.
You too. Same. And it's just the beginning.
We're just getting started.
Like, you're just getting started. I'm just getting started. Like, Real's honestly just getting started. Like, they only have, like, last year, like, it's not, we have 6,000 agents. It's just getting started, and to have that component of it's so great.
So Spring, you're doing something pretty special in the end of October, right?
Yes. I'm like, so Jack, this is one of those things that when it's like oh shit, you have to do it. Right. So I've had this burning desire for probably 2 or 3 years to do a women's event. And the reason that I want to do a women's event is I can't tell you how many women reach out to me and say, Spring, I feel stuck. Like, how I'm growing. How do you find your tribe? I don't have any friends that I can relate with. I don't, my friend circle, like, is from being a mom or high school, and I feel like I'm growing, and how are you meeting new people? And I was there. So I went through a divorce probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I don't want to say lost all my friends, but my friendships were tied into that relationship. Right.
Your identity there.
My identity and all of that. And I went through this phase of like, man, who do I hang out with? Like, I had to reinvent myself. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'll bore you the story, but I actually put on like a small women's event. I thought it was me, women in business, and we were going to mastermind and all this stuff. Well, it ended up being the facilitator that we hired was a soul. She did a soul retreat. And it was probably the most beautiful experience I've ever went through, because all of us there were lady killers. Like, we're amazing. And that event just connected us, and it was what we needed. So from that, I formed some really deep friendships, and I have 3 girls that I travel with all the time. we call each other the Soul Sisters, and they're who I go to Bali. I went to Tulum. Like, it's just a great thing. And I'm so grateful for that. So fast forward, I've been like, I want to create this for other women. Like, I want to expand this tribe. I want to, like, we're so much more than work.
Yeah.
We're so much more than being a wife or a mother. And I want to create this environment. So booking a venue has been a challenge because everybody's now starting to redo their conferences for, because of the pandemic, like everything was canceled. So I've been working on this, and I got the call, and she said, I can get you October 28th through the 30th, Kona Kai, San Diego. Do you want it? And it was just that it like lit that fire in my stomach. And I was all, yeah, let's go for it. And my team was all, what the hell are you doing? It's less than 90 days away. Like, you want us to fill this venue in 90 days? I'm like, yep, we're going. And so I booked it, and it was because it just lit me up, Jack. I was like, I know women need this. I'm going to do something different, and we'll figure it out. So October 28th through the 30th, it's in San Diego. It's called Ignite. And the reason I chose the title Ignite is because this is a whole nother topic, but I was burned in a fire when I was a child, or in my 20s, and I'm 85% a giant skin graft scar. And so that lesson taught me the power of choice, and also that experience, and just like it created who I am today. And so fire is a big symbol in my life. So I was like, let's ignite your life. I am bringing in speakers that are all about, I have Dr. Val, who's women's health, about like hormones and blood work and energy. And just like, as you get into your 30s, 40s, 50s, life changes.
Yes.
And how you can optimize it. I'm bringing in Christy, who is all about soul freedom and soul connection. She does a more feminine breath work than Colton does. But she also does an exercise with it, stuff that's amazing. And then I'm bringing in Leah, who is your erotic blueprint. So we're going to go there. Like, if you're feeling like you don't have passion in your life, like, she's all about helping you create that. And then I'm on a tangent because I'm so passionate about this, Jack. We rented a yacht for a sunset cruise. It's going to be very similar to real estate spring break, where we're not flying somewhere to sit in a conference room for hours. Like, we're gonna do our part to level up, but then we're gonna have fun together. So I'm excited. It's not for women in real estate, but most people probably will be in real estate because that's my audience. But yeah, I'm super pumped.
I would encourage everybody to like get involved. We'll provide the information on that so that you can connect with Spring and be a part of that. Again, just being around Spring, just by herself, is something that, I mean, I know what it's done for me. Just being around, there's a shine around Spring for damn. It's just, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I don't have the words for it. There's just this energy that you have, that you bring to every event. You did it at basically spring break, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to do it again in March, right?
Yeah. So real estate spring break, same place, same location, March 14th through the 18th. Right now we have tickets on sale, BOGO, buy one, get one free. And then I'm doing the exact same thing, but for women at a little bit higher level. At end of October in San Diego.
Great. Well, again, Spring, I'm super grateful that you were here today on the Lehr Podcast. And again, you just bring so much. I encourage everybody to get in touch with Spring. There's going to be a way to follow her on Insta, all the different social media channels that she's on. And again, if you found value in this, I ask you to subscribe, like, and share with those that need help, because having people like Spring in my life has made such an impact, and I'm super grateful for you, Spring.
And thank you for having me. So grateful for you and Sarah and your whole team. So enjoy the rest of the day.